Good morning, my dear students. Welcome to our Zoology online class. Dear students, in the last class we studied about the structure of human respiratory system. Okay, see, already I told you that our respiratory system consists of a lot of organs. Okay, we started from the external nostrils. So, external nostrils, nasal cavity, then pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, then alveoli, lungs. These are the important organs of our respiratory system. Okay, so in the last class, up to the bronchioles we have completed. That means the external nostrils, nasal cavity, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles. Okay, up to bronchioles we have completed in the last class. Okay, so hope you have studied all these organs of our respiratory system. Dear students, in today's class we are going to study about the remaining two more organs of our respiratory system. Okay, so first we are going to study about the next organ, alveoli. Okay, so first we are going to study about the structure of alveoli. See, already in the last class I told you the bronchs. Okay, sorry, the bronchs, the end of the trachea is divided into two bronchi, right and left primary bronchs. Okay, so these two bronchs are entering inside the lungs and again dividing into secondary and tertiary bronchi. Okay, secondary and tertiary bronchi. Then these branches are again divided into two type of bronchioles. Okay, one is the terminal bronchioles and the second one is the respiratory bronchioles. Okay, so terminal bronchioles and respiratory bronchioles, these are the two bronchioles present inside the lungs. Understand of you? Then here at the end of the respiratory bronchioles, okay, a bag-like structure, a thin-walled sac-like structure is there. This sac-like structure or this bag-like structure is called alveoli. Listen very carefully, dear friends. At the end of the respiratory bronchioles, more number of thin-walled sac-like structure is there. This sac-like structure is called alveoli. Okay. Then, so now we completed the locations of this alveoli. Then the functions of this alveoli. Alveoli are acting as a major site for exchanging the gas. Okay, the gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen, both the gases are exchanging in this alveoli, inside this alveoli. So if this alveoli is acting as a gaseous exchange part of our respiratory system. Understand of you? Then next point, the wall of the alveoli is made up of three layers. Okay, the wall of the alveoli is made up of three layers. The outer layer is very thin layer and it is made up of squamous epithelium. Okay, so the outer layer of the alveoli is made up of mainly squamous epithelial cells. Understand of you? Then the inner layer is called endothelium of the alveolar capillaries. Capillaries meaning small blood vessels connecting with the alveoli is called alveolar capillaries. Okay, so endothelium is the inner layer of the alveoli, and in between these two, another one membrane is there, or another one layer is there. It is called basement substance. It is called basement substance. Understand of you? Then this outer layer, that means I already told you this outer layer is a very thin layer and it is made up of squamous epithelium. There are two types of cells are present in this outer layer. One is type 1 cells and the second one is type 2 cells. Understand of you? Here the type 1 cells are very thin. Okay, and these layers exchanging more amount of gases. But the type 2 cells are very thick and these cells are secreting a secretions or fluid. It is called surfactants. It is called surfactants. So dear students, now we studied about the alveoli. So first once I repeat all the points about this alveoli. So first the location of alveoli, I said the alveoli are located at the end of the respiratory bronchiole. It looks like a small bag-like structure. Understand of you? And their major function is exchanging the gases. And the wall of the alveoli is made up of three layers. The first layer is made up of very thin squamous epithelial cells, and the inner layer is endothelium of the alveolar capillaries, and in between basement substance is present. Hope you are understood all the points about this alveoli. Then we are going to study about the last organ, lungs. Last organ, lungs. Actually, lungs is a spongy organ. It's a sponge organ, understand? And this lungs is kept inside a cavity. Name of this cavity is called a thoracic cavity. Commonly we can say chest cavity. Okay, so inside our chest cavity or thoracic cavity only a pair of lungs is located. Understand of you? Then the lungs is protected by a cage-like structure. That means in front of the lungs, a flat long bone is there. This bone is called sternum. And the back side backbone is there. Understand of you? And the both side ribs are there, and in the lower side, that means the bottom side, one membrane is there. This is called diaphragm. Understand of you? So our lungs is kept inside a cage. This cage is made up of some bones and membrane. So in the front region of this cage, sternum bone is there, back side backbone is there, and both side ribs bones are there, and in the lower side or the bottom side, the diaphragm muscles are there. Understand of you? Understand? Then next, the lungs is covered with a double layered membrane. Name of this membrane is called pleural membrane. Lungs is covered with a double layered membrane. Name of this membrane is called pleural membrane. And this pleural membrane is made up of many layers of elastic connective tissues. Okay, so it's a double layer membrane. Pleural membrane is a double layered membrane, and this membrane is made up of many layers of elastic connective tissues. And inside this double layer membrane, a fluid is there. Name of this fluid is called pleural fluid. Name of this fluid is called pleural fluid. And this pleural fluid reduces the friction of lungs while contracting and expanding. That means when we breathe the atmospheric air, the lungs is contracting and expanding. Okay, contracting and expanding. Okay, so that time sometimes the lungs is getting a friction. Understand? With the outer surface. So here this pleural fluid is used to reduce the friction of the lungs while contracting and expanding. Hope you all understood all the points about the lungs. Okay, dear students. Now we have completed all the organs of the human respiratory system. Understand of you? Then next is small 3-mark question. Characters of respiratory surface. Okay, respiratory surface characters. See, the respiratory surface should be very large. Okay, the first character is this should be very large, and the second character is this should associated or connected with more blood vessels. So the respiratory surface should be connected with more blood vessels, and it should be very thin and always in moist condition. Okay, the surface of the respiratory system is always in thin condition and always in moist condition. It should be directly contact with the environment, outer environment. This is the next character. Understand? And the next to last character is it is permeable to respiratory gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Understand that, dear students? So it's a very important 3-mark question. So once I repeat the characters of respiratory surface. The first one is the respiratory surface should be very large, and second one is more blood vessels should be connected with this respiratory surface, and it should be very thin and moist condition, and it should be directly contact with the environment, and it should be permeable, or it should allow the gases, okay, respiratory gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Understand a few? So dear students, now we have completed one important 3-mark questions also. Then next, the steps involved in the respiration. Okay, actually the respiration process takes place in 5 steps. Inside our respiratory system, the respiratory process takes place in 5 steps. The first step is exchanging of respiratory gases between the atmosphere and lungs. Okay, listen very carefully. This is also important 3-mark question. Steps involved in the respiration. So the first step is exchanging of air or respiratory gases between the atmosphere and lungs. Understand a few? Then second, exchanging of carbon dioxide between the lungs and blood. The second step is exchanging of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the lungs and blood. Understand a few? Then the third step is transporting of respiratory gases through the blood, because the blood will be carrying the oxygen and carbon dioxide from one part of the respiratory system to another part. Okay, so from one part of the respiratory system to cells, from the cells to respiratory system. Okay, so both carbon dioxide and oxygen, both gases, respiratory gases, are exchanging transporting by blood. Understand? So this is the third step. The fourth one is exchange of gases between the blood and cells. Okay, between the blood and the cells. And the last one is uptake or using of the oxygen by the cells for various activities and releasing carbon dioxide. Okay, so the gases, oxygen is transported from the alveoli to the cells. After reaching inside the cells are using this oxygen molecule okay, using the oxygen molecule to produce more amount of energy and for some other activities, okay. And finally, the carbon dioxide is released. That carbon dioxide is carried from the blood to the alveoli. Understand, students? So now we completed the steps, 5 steps involved in the respiration. So listen very carefully. Once again repeat. The first step is exchanging of air between the environment and lungs. And the second step, the exchanging of carbon dioxide and oxygen between the lungs and blood. And the third step, transporting of carbon dioxide and oxygen through blood. Okay. Then the fourth one is the exchange of gases between the blood and cells. And the last step, uptaking of oxygen by the cells for various activities and releasing carbon dioxide. So these are the 5 steps involved in the respiration. Hope you all understood. Just 3 mark question. Then finally we are going to study about one very important 5 mark question, the mechanism of breathing. Mechanism of breathing. Listen very carefully, dear students. Here the definition for the word breathing is exchanging of atmospheric air between the atmosphere and lungs. Okay, exchanging of gases between the atmosphere and lungs, it is called ventilation, otherwise called breathing. Hope you all understood the definition for this breathing. And this breathing process takes place in 2 steps, okay, 2 phases. There are 2 phases are involved in the breathing process. First one is inspiration and the second one is expression. Okay, inspiration and expression. Okay, here inspiration meaning the process of entering the atmospheric air inside the body or inside the lungs is called inspiration, and expression meaning the process of removal of gases from the lungs to outer environment outside the body is called expression. Understand, dear students? So breathing meaning the process of exchanging the gases between the atmosphere and lungs is called breathing, and it is take place in 2 phases. One is inspiration and the next one is expression. Understand? Then here this inspiration and expression, both process are because of the contraction and expanding. Okay, contraction and relaxation of 3 muscles. One is the diaphragm muscles and the second one is the external intercostal muscle and the third one is internal intercostal muscles. So 3 muscles are involved in this respiration process or breathing process. One is the diaphragm muscle and the second one is the external intercostal muscle and the third one is the internal intercostal muscle. Here diaphragm is a small membrane, okay, small sheet or small membrane present between the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. So the chest cavity and the stomach cavity abdominal cavity both are separated by a membrane. This membrane is called diaphragm membrane, and the correct shape of this diaphragm membrane is dome shape. Dome shape means this shape. Okay, so the shape of the diaphragm muscle is dome shape. Understand? So during the inspiration process, this respiration process, these diaphragm muscles, internal and external intercostal muscles are contracting and relaxing. Understand? So dear students, now we are going to study about the 2 steps, the 2 phases involved in this breathing. Already I told you there are 2 phases. First phase is called inspiration and second one is called expression. So first I am going to explain about inspiration. How this inspiration takes place in the lungs. Okay, so listen very carefully, dear students. See, when the diaphragm muscles contract and the external intercostal muscles are contracting. Here the intercostal muscles, both intercostal muscles, external and internal intercostal muscles are present between the ribs. Okay, present between the ribs. So listen very carefully. See, when these external intercostal muscles present between the ribs and the diaphragm muscles are contracting, this inspiration process is started. Okay, so the reason for this inspiration process is contracting of external intercostal muscles and diaphragm muscles. Listen very carefully. So when these 2 muscles are contracting, the ribs and the sternum bones are moving upward and outward. Okay, so listen very carefully, dear students. So when the external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm muscles are contracting, the ribs, okay, and the sternum bone both are moving upward and outwards. Understand? So the thoracic volume is increased. The chest cavity's volume is increased. and the pulmonary volume also increased. Pulmonary volume meaning volume of the lungs. Lungs volume is increased. So inside the lungs the pressure is decreased. Inside the lungs the pressure is decreased. Listen very carefully, dear students. During inspiration, the external intercostal muscles and the diaphragm muscles are contracting. So the thoracic volume is increased. Then the pulmonary volume is increased. At the same time, when the pulmonary volume is increased, the pressure inside the lungs or the pulmonary pressure is decreased than the atmospheric pressure. Okay, pulmonary pressure or the pressure of the lungs is decreased than the atmospheric pressure. So the atmospheric air can easily enter inside the lungs and equalize the pressure. This process is called inspiration. Understand of you? Then now we are going to study about the second phase, expression. Okay. So during this time, during expression, the internal intercostal muscles contracting. Then the diaphragm muscle is relaxing. Listen very carefully. During inspiration process, the external intercostal muscles contract and the diaphragm muscles also contract. But during expression, the internal intercostal muscle is contracting and the diaphragm muscle is relaxing. Okay. So as a result, the ribs and sternum bones are moving to their original position. During the inspiration process, both bones are moving in upward and outward direction. Okay. Now they are coming to their original position. So the thoracic volume is decreased. Volume inside the chest cavity is decreased. Pulmonary volume also decreased. Volume inside the lungs is decreased. Okay. So when these two volumes is decreased, automatically pressure inside the lungs or the pulmonary pressure is increased. So the air which is present inside the lungs is moving or coming outside the environment, to the outside environment. This process is called expression. Okay. So the expression process is initiated or started while the internal intercostal muscle is contracting and the diaphragm muscle is in relaxed condition. Okay. So because of these two muscles activity, the ribs and the sternum bones are coming to their original position. Okay, coming to their original position. The diaphragm muscle is coming to their original shape, dome shape. Okay. So as a result, the thoracic cavity volume is decreased. Pressure inside the lungs cavity, pulmonary volume also decreased, but the pulmonary pressure is increased. Pressure inside the lungs is increased, so the air is moving outside. So this process is called expression. Hope you are understood. This is a very important 5-mark question. Then next some 1-mark question. Say, actually, a healthy human beings can breathe 12 to 16 times per minute. 12 to 16 times per minute. Understand a few? Then one more question is there, spirometer. This is a device used to measure the volume of air involved in breathing. Okay, volume of air involved in breathing. Okay, so if any person is affected with any respiratory problem, they will check how much amount of air is entering inside their respiratory system. Okay, by using this device, they are checking the volume of the air involved in breathing. Okay, so name of the device used to measure the volume of the air involved in breathing is called spirometer. Understand, dear students? So, dear students, today we have completed 2 3-mark questions. What is the first question? Characters of respiratory surface. And the second one is steps involved in respiration. These 2 are 3-mark questions, important 3-mark question. Then we studied about the mechanism of breathing. It's a very important 5-mark question. Okay, dear students. So, hope you all enjoyed today's class. We will meet in the next class. Thank you.